We get together every week. I'm Bill Gross, along with my good friend and colleague,
Patricia.Castillo.
Patricia.Castillo. I'll translate that in English for the gringo. That's Patricia.Castillo. And our other good friend, lender,
Gustavo Segura.
Gustavo Segura, or Gustavo Segura. Sugar, I guess, if you're a gringo pronunciation.
Yes.
And we get together every Wednesday at 5 o'clock and have some fun and talk about all things real estate, particularly buying houses and the crazy times that we're in, the crazy market, and what's going on. So what's going on? How about the market? The Fed today makes a big change and really doesn't change rates at all, does it?
Yeah, I think the market was already adjusting to that. I think everybody was expecting the 75 basis points, and it was jumping around all over the place. But I think it made very minor change. But I think everybody was expecting it, and I think now they're expecting probably December to be the first time that they do 50 basis points versus 75. So I think we might see things settling and maybe coming down a little bit.
Yeah.
Well, who knows the future, what it holds. We have an election coming up, volatile times, and you have all kinds of possible stuff. Basically, right now, though, it seems like you say, the change was factored in. I'll share with you, I have one listing that we got full price offer in, and we opened escrow today on.
Exciting.
Yeah, maybe a lower price downtown LA condo, not high end. And then another, I'd say at the lower end, not low, but lower end to middle condo in Long Beach. We're writing off for full price, having been accepted. We're running through competition. So despite the rates and all that, and despite all the talk about the housing crisis, there's still people who want to buy real estate and willing to pay, I think, the same price as 3 and 6 months ago. Yeah?
Absolutely. And I think it's just, the media is always reporting all the negativity, because unless they say the housing market is crashing, then people are going to keep changing channels.
Right.
So it's really about what you can afford, and if it's, a good time for you to buy right now. And I just, congratulations on your, I know you just recently took a listing as well, Bill. I had 2 closings last week, and one in Downey and one is in Azusa. And that just goes to show that the market is still very busy, very active for the fourth quarter. And this is a time where you can really negotiate on a property and get into a property even before the holidays this year. So that's really what we're working on here, is helping people get into a property.
Yeah, I think, it's funny how the news may be negative, but when you break down the numbers, and we've talked about this before, how while the numbers are down in terms of sales, perhaps 30% in some markets, in our market included, the prices are up over last year by 15%. But it's still, at the end of the day, the people who are deciding to pay the price, same as a year ago. And while it's true with the higher rates, the people paying much more monthly. As a result, there's still plenty of people, apparently, more people want to buy than, or at least as many people want to buy as sell. It seems to be active. And I don't think that's the reality. Now, in some markets, that's not true. But that's certainly true where we are, right?
Right. Absolutely.
Doesn't matter what somebody says. And I posted on my YouTube video, and I had somebody say, "Oh, the inventory is, is exploding and the market's crashing." And I said, "Well, not nationally, it's not. I look at the data every month, every week. Inventory is about the same and dropping nationally. Locally in California, in Southern California, inventory is about the same or dropping. It's not going up that much."
Mm-hmm.
So,
yeah, I mean, somebody asked me, are we going to get hit with a lot of foreclosures? And the reality is no, they're pretty much back to the same pre-pandemic levels. And there's always going to be foreclosures. Despite, the economy, the pandemic, there's just people that fall behind for whatever reason. Sometimes it's just life circumstances, maybe a separation or relocation, loss of employment, whatever the case may be. But life happens, and some people just start getting behind on their payments. So we always have a certain amount of foreclosures just normally across the board. And we're pretty much back at the pre-pandemic levels.
definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's part of that is from a lending perspective, we're qualifying individuals, best and better than 2008, when there were a lot of people there that shouldn't have loans. So I think that's the recent memory everybody has. But even in the 2-1 buy down programs or any of those kinds of programs, we're still qualifying them at the fully amortized rate. So we know that they can go ahead and make that payment. So there's still going to be a more qualified borrower. And that's what we're seeing now. That's why I think the market is staying strong, and those, foreclosures are not coming out there because they're still strong individuals.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you are 100% right. So where does that leave us? What do we do? What's the story? What's the strategy? I'll share with you. I have a client who I didn't know they're looking to buy a property and calls me and tells me they are, of course. And what's the hang up? Because in a market like this, if you find the property you want, the price you want to make it, it's like a race to get under contract. What don't they have? The lender's not put together. And I tried to recommend, no, they know somebody. Here's a day has gone by now. And I'm thinking, it's just not good. Nothing's good happens till you write the offer. There's nothing.
Right. You have to act quickly, even in this market, because other people are seeing the opportunity. So even though the property's been on the market maybe 30 days, 60 days, that really doesn't mean that there isn't another buyer that's looking at the same property and they're rushing in to get an offer. So that's speed to market, but also speed to the activity that you're in. If you're looking to write an offer on a property, you better have your ducks in a row and have your pre-approval ready to go.
Why not? Why would you find, with all the work to find the property, why would you sit around for a day or two and get your paperwork done just to let somebody else step in and snag the property?
Yeah, no, that's right. And I was just sharing with Patricia today that I was talking to another agent, and basically their deal was falling out of escrow today. They were supposed to be closing, and she was just kind of sharing with me what happened and seeing if I can help them in any way. And it's one of those things where we go back to the conversations that we had previous weeks where, it starts out very early in the process, what you're qualified for, working with your lender, being able to identify that you are qualified for a certain loan amount. And then you don't have these issues later on because now they weren't qualified. They were above the DTI ratios that the loan officer had put them in for. So they went into escrow, and then once the underwriter went in there and verified all the numbers, they're actually above the debt to income ratios. So, very important to start early on, get your, ducks in a row and be able to know that when you find that house, you have that confidence to go ahead and put that offer right away.
Right. And then talking about that, Gustavo, we were also talking about, I think it would be a good idea just to run down the documents that are needed for the qualification. I know that we've mentioned it before, but, people always ask the same question because they might think that the policy has changed over time, but I think it's pretty basic as far as what's needed. And this is usually something that's within your reach and it's easy to get.
Yeah, it is. And it's very important, just like that deal, right? That was just falling through because their debt to income was higher. You want to make sure that you get that qualification going. And in order to get that, if we're going to take a look at your income. Now, we always look at gross. I always get this question when I talk to borrowers. I said, how much do you make? They always give me the net. And I start out with saying, well, for loan purposes, we start out with their gross income. That's what we use in order to qualify. And exactly. And then from there is your two most recent check stubs, right? We want to make sure that one, you're employed, which is why it's a recent check stub. And then we're going to be able to check with, hourly rates, how many hours you're working, or if it's salary, we're going to be able to see that as well. And then of course, W-2s, the last 2 years, that's going to help us see the historical aspect of it, right? We need a 2-year work history so that W-2 will help see if it's a growing income or if maybe there's a decline, and why that may be. And then from there, it's the bank statements, either 1 or 2 months. That allows us to see that we have the assets needed for the down payment and for the closing costs. So that right there allows us as a lender to be able to take a look at the numbers and say, okay, now let's take a look at your liability. Here's your income, your gross income. Let's take a look at your liability. We do that's where I do that soft pull where it doesn't hurt their credit score. It doesn't drop them down by 5 points or anything. And then I'm able to see the liabilities to the income. And a lot of people will say, well, hey, I get a bonus. Oh, I get overtime, count that in. So with those numbers, we have to make sure that it is consistent, meaning year over year. You got a $10,000 bonus last year and this year is the same. Great. Now we have a history. If it was just 2 years ago and 2 years is 5,000 and this year is 5,000, the lender is not going to feel comfortable, counting that as income. So, whenever you have overtime and bonus, talk to your loan officer and we'll walk you through that process.
Yeah, absolutely. Bill, you were in financing before, so has any of this documentation changed since
Nothing
you
has
started your
changed.
financing career? All the same documents, right?
Nothing really has
Exactly.
changed. It's amazing in all these years. And it's funny, the same thing that made real estate agent, mortgage agents successful when I started in the business in 1986, it was get all the documentation up front.
Mhm.
And here we are in 2022 with all the technology we have and all the things we have. At the end of the day, what makes a difference is getting all the documents up front. There's no other shortcut. There's no other. You still got to get the documents you need to get.
Yeah, definitely. And I was going to say too, for those that are getting what is non-taxable income, right? So you're getting a Social Security payment, you get an alimony, you get child support. We can gross that up. So depending on the loan program, FHA or conventional, we can gross that up 15 or 25%. So, that's where talking to a loan officer, being able to discover what kind of income you're getting monthly. And then we can see whether we can go an extra $200, $400 into your monthly income. That may make the difference, but being able to get something a little bit better for you.
Yeah, it's the paycheck you have. If you look at your paycheck, you'll see my name on your paycheck. There's the net, the lower number we don't like, and there's the gross number, the bigger number that we like. That's my name. So
yeah,
on your paycheck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think one of the other, common questions that come up are paying off my accounts. Should I pay off all my credit cards right now? Should I start closing my accounts? So as far as closing accounts, opening new accounts, some people would start a new account just to have that revolving, payment and then charge and then payment and then charge. But what is the actual activity that happens with the FICO score when there's credit closures or new accounts that are being opened? It's almost like it's too much at one time and it can actually hurt your credit rather than help.
Yeah, and that's actually also what happened today with that individual, because they basically had no other liability except for their housing expense. So their liability was still below the traditional 50% debt to income ratio that you would think for a conventional loan. But Fannie Mae just thought it was too much of a housing cost. So a lot of times when all of your liability is going to go to the house and it's going to be 43, 44, 45% of it, it's not going to get approved, So what you want to do is you want to make sure that, yes, you may have some accounts that you want to pay off, but let's, talk through it with your originator, because when we look at the accounts, you may have 4, 5, 6, 7 accounts and you may think it's too many, but the minimum payments are very little. And you had it for 7 or 9 years, that credit card, it has a good standing history. So you don't want to close something out that shows your credit history, that shows your performance. You also don't want to add anything new, right? You don't want to go out there and start spending money to furnish the new house. And the biggest thing would be like a car loan. Also, you want to make sure that you protect against co-signing anything for anybody else, right? We always have to be careful about who we're co-signing with, but even more so during this time when you're buying a home. I would say stay calm with your credit, monitor it, make sure you know your accounts. Don't start closing off accounts. Talk to your originator first. And then, like I said, don't share any co-signing or anything like that during this period, wait until afterwards.
I'll tell you a quick story. In about a long time ago, let's say, 19 something, I had taken over a mortgage company, and the company was like a franchise of a company owned in Texas.
Mm-hmm.
And so I went to the corporate office after a few months, and they wanted to have like some meetings and review and such and quality control. They sat me down and said, Bill, we have some concerns about the loans you're doing. I said, what? And he said, well, we took whatever number was 100 of your loans you closed. We ran a credit report, and would you believe after closing some number, I forget the percentage, half, 2/3, had substantial purchases after we bought the loan. I said, yeah. And he said, well, how do you explain that? I said, they just bought a new house. Like, of course they bought, appliances and furniture and stuff for the house. And we told them they couldn't buy anything until they closed. So they were ready to go as soon as we closed escrow.
Right.
So it is a good reminder that, if you're buying an escrow, buying a house, it's not a good time to buy anything else. Let it sit, let it wait. Don't buy it on layaway and let it sit there for a month or two. Just fight the urge. And then once you close escrow that day, go crazy, buy it all.
Right.
You can take it back, whatever, if you don't like it. But I'm just saying it is very important that you not make major purchases because it affects your credit score, it affects your ratios. In fact, the opposite. If you can pay down balances before you start shopping and you run your credit in, all the better. So.
Exactly. Yeah. You want to keep those balances, you don't want to have 80% of your credit being used up, in those balances. So there's definitely an equation where you like to keep it low, below 50%, even below 30%. But again, we know life is expensive and we know things are going on. So that's why talk to your originator. We're able to see that. We're able to run what if scenarios. We can take a look at which cards we need to pay down a little bit. It could be $500 we need to pay back down, and then be able to run a rapid rescore, and then we can lift your credit score by 40 or 50 points. So it doesn't always mean go ahead and pay the $3,000. It may just mean $500 that you need to pay down. So when you're working with the loan originator, make sure that you're getting these details, because there's definitely a roadmap that we can follow to help out without, and minimize the out-of-pocket expense.
Right. Sometimes just spending a little too much on the credit cards can reverse the pre-approval, and also, opening up or changing the numbers in any way can also hurt. So talk to your realtor or lender.
Yes, definitely.
Our favorites. People are responsible for getting the job done. I think that's part of it also. We're responsible to get this job done for you guys, to help you get it done. But how can we
because nowadays there's so much information out there, like, whether it's the media or just a lot of neighbors, and just a lot of social media. And I think people may get confused and say, well, why is my loan not getting approved if it's 45% debt to income ratio and it's supposed to be 50, the max? Well, there's a lot of, gray area, and it depends on your credit profile, and it depends on a lot of other things, so there's definitely communication that needs to happen in order to make sure that you're getting the best opportunity to buy that home.
Yep.
Yeah, and also the 3 bureaus, they have different scores. So Experian, TransUnion, and Equifax, they will all pull your credit, but then at the end of the day, they have a different score. So all 3 are usually looking at when you're as a lender, you're looking at the middle score when you're looking at all 3 final scores.
Correct. Yeah, we'll take a look at all that, and we'll take a look at 3. And they all have a different way of they report the credit. The creditors will report back to the agencies once a month or twice a month. So we can catch someone pull their credit in the beginning of the month, and then maybe by the end of the month they got a 5-point or 10-point lift. So that's why we use the middle score, being able to take all 3 of them and just being able to say, this is like an average. So definitely work with us, and we can help out if we need to get you over 700 credit score. For example, if you're at 660 or 680, that's very close to be able to pay down a couple cards and do that rapid rescore and be able to get you over 700.
Okay, well, good. Very good information.
Okay, so here we are, and what do you think is going to happen with the holiday period? How is that going to change things, you think, going forward?
I think it's been a pretty busy 4th quarter. I still have clients that are looking to sell their property this year, and also for tax reasons, close on a property this year. So I think it's, as far as the interest rates, I'm not even really hearing that much anymore about any concern about the interest rates. It's just looking at, what people can afford right now, because in a couple of years, they're going to be able to refinance and get out of that rate. So I see a lot of activity right now and a lot of interest in buying. Our open houses have been really busy. The open house Irene and I did last week in Carson, we had 2 offers that came in, one over asking and one at list price at $650. So
whoa. You hold on 1 second there. You held an open house with Irene and you had 2 offers come in that day?
The next day, we had 3 calls from an agent. The buyer had just left the property. And this is why I was mentioning earlier, if you see a property you like, don't think that it's just going to sit there and you're going to wait for the price to come down. Because there's still offers that are coming in at over asking price because it's in a desirable location. It's a great home. It has the biggest lot in the area. So those are all factors that will engage the buyer activity. So I just, you were asking about what I think. I think it's just going to remain a, stronger fourth quarter.
Yeah, it's hard to tell, what the future holds, economically overall. There's so many factors it seems like going on. But as it sits here today, I don't see any slowdown. This is November. And like I said, we got an offer in escrow. I got another one where I got an offer on. It doesn't feel like it's slowing down. So cool. Okay, well, look, I think we covered. Anything else you want to cover before we wrap up today?
I just wanted to mention that it's a good idea to keep an eye on your credit. And one way to do that is pulling your own credit report. You can get one free credit report online at annualcreditreport.com. And
Nice.
it'll give you all of your credit, your 3 credit scores there. So that's a really comprehensive report you can pull online. It's free. And it's a really good opportunity just to see where you're at, even if you're just thinking about maybe getting started. But you always want to look at your credit report at least once a year to see what's on there. There might be some items that could be disputed that may not even belong to you. And so that's why it's important to take a look. And, we're happy to look at that report with you as well, if you have any questions about it.
Fantastic. And so, Patricia, someone wants to get a hold of you to find out more. How do they get a hold of you?
My cell phone number, 323-365-9909.
And where are you located?
In Los Angeles, in Downey.
Los Angeles or Downey? Which one?
Downey, in Los Angeles County.
See, Downey's so bougie. You're embarrassed to say that you're in Downey. You want to tell people in LA. Act like you're some homegirl. No, she's in Downey. She's all that in Downey. And she's visiting us today. So very nice. And Gustavo, someone get a hold of you and talk about loans. How would they get a hold of you?
Yeah, cell phone number, the best way, 714-334-4563, text or call.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
I'm Bill Gross. We do this every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. We live stream it onto social media. Reach out to us. If you have questions, put in the chat box. We'll get back to you. Reach out to us directly. And as always, make today your best day ever. Bye, everybody. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.